What I am goes much, much beyond this isolated, skin-bounded organism. The more I go into I, the more I fall out of I. We take refuge in the Buddha. We take refuge in the Dharma. We take refuge in the Sangha. The origins of the Lanka are uncertain. An ancient text believed to be written around the 4th century. Its name, Lankavatara, is a blend of 2 Sanskrit words, Lanka and avatar. One interpretation means descent into Lanka. This references the location the Buddha revealed this sutra. It recounts a visit the Buddha is said to have made to the island of Lanka, where he explained the Dharma to Sargara, a serpent king, and later, at the invitation of Ravana, the king of the island of Lanka, to a vast assembly of advanced monks and bodhisattvas. The Lanka is essentially a conversation between the Buddha and the bodhisattva Mahamati. Mahamati means great mind, being of wisdom and fearlessness. The Lankavatara Sutra is not your typical Buddhist text. The nature of suffering and enlightenment, or explicitly listing and expounding upon the precepts, are not systematically explained in the Lanka. Rather, it dives deeper into the crux of the nature of reality and self. It delves into It delves into ethical and moral implications of various actions and attitudes. The Lanka suggests the world we perceive is not object reality, but constructs of our own mind. This idea, while challenging, can transform our idea of self and the world around us. The Lanka encourages us to examine our motives and cultivate mindfulness, to act in accordance with the principles of non-harming, truthfulness, and compassion. As I mentioned yesterday, I found it immensely helpful to pay close attention when contradictory thoughts or strong views come forth into the present moment. The Lanka is packed with perceived contradictions. It's my clue to actually pay attention and stop for a moment. A contradictory thought may indicate I need to change my mind, or it might mean that I need to refine my thinking. Another possibility might be to put down my thoughts and opinions, the picking and choosing, making room to listen, deepening my understanding of emptiness. I find it helpful to be grateful, acknowledge the perceived contradiction I'm experiencing, and stay quiet. Be still while daily life goes on. The Lanka gives us ample opportunities for reflection, to stop, and to actually consider, what am I doing? How can I learn from this experience? According to legend, Bodhidharma gave the Lanka to his most advanced student and successor, Ueko, saying that everything he needed to know about the Dharma was in this sutra, as the most important scripture on the doctrinal foundation of Chan. Although the sutra presents a comprehensive review of the teachings of Chan, the Diamond Sutra replaced it approximately in the middle of the 7th century as the primary Chan text. One reason given is that the Lanka is an incredibly difficult text to understand without a teacher. So a more palatable text was sought as the first Chan monasteries, with large numbers of students with different levels of understanding, formed. The 4th patriarch was said to have over 500 disciples, and the 5th patriarch more than 1,000. Up until the 7th century, the transmission of Zen was based on a private relationship between a teacher and a handful of students. Thus, it is not surprising that Zen remains such a hidden tradition. In such a setting, a text like the Lankavatara could be used to its advantage. With the establishment of large-scale Zen, Chan monasteries, Zen masters look for something better suited to larger audiences of varying degrees of comprehension. The means of attaining Buddhahood recommended in the Lanka is meditation and is distinguished into 4 levels. A second reason given for the transition to the Diamond Sutra was the Lanka presented a gradual practice of meditation to attain Buddhahood. The development of Chan in China, which emphasized sudden enlightenment, naturally did not follow the gradual levels of meditation like Indian fashion as indicated in the Lanka. With this change in emphasis, they found the text in the Diamond Sutra. This transition in teaching emphasis is symbolized in the Platform Sutra of the 6th Patriarch and the legendary verse competition between the eventual 6th Patriarch, Wei Nang, a Diamond Sutra supporter, and Shin Shui, a supporter of the continued use of the Lankavatara Sutra. The very walls where their verses were written was scheduled to be presented with the scenes from the Lanka on it. So it's ironic that the transition took place with the Lanka forming a backdrop. If you're interested in this full story of the transition, it is found, regarding the competition, it's found in the Platform Sutra, and Red Pine has given us an excellent translation. For me, this puts to rest my question about how the Lankavatara Sutra is presented as one of the most important texts in Mahayana Buddhism, and my personal lack of exposure to the teaching, which I'm responsible for. Somehow, seeing the context of history when the shift in teaching emphasis is said to have occurred is beneficial. The Lanka's enduring relevance is evident. As we will see this week, the Lanka's teachings deeply interpenetrated the more familiar Zen sutras. Now I understand my connection to the Lanka through the Diamond Sutra. The Diamond Sutra is my go-to sutra, has been for decades, and has taught me many valuable lessons. Foremost, if a bodhisattva has lakshana of self, lakshana of human beings, lakshana of sentient beings, or lakshana of a soul, then he is not a bodhisattva. The Lanka constantly appears to shift perspectives when presenting its crucial topics, such as endorsing versus more or less strongly criticizing or even denying the notion of self, emptiness, identitylessness, and alaya consciousness, and Citramatra. However, rather than simply taking them to be contradictory, when read carefully in comparison, such shifts in perspective appear to be attempts, though not very systematic, to differentiate mistaken and correct ways of understanding these notions. The doctrinal foundation of Zen, Chan, that is based on the thought, a special transmission outside the scriptures and no dependence upon words and letters, is echoed in the Lanka, which also stresses a lack of reliance on words to successfully understand reality. Through our daily life, our individual experience, each of us has the potential to see the truth for ourselves. The truth is the state of self-realization and is beyond categories of discrimination and words. The Lanka stresses the importance of the self-realization that is attained by noble wisdom and occurs when one has an insight into reality as it is. The Buddha said, words are not known in all Buddha lands. Words, Mahamati, words are an artificial creation. Words are an artificial creation. In some Buddha lands, ideas are indicated by looking steadily, and others by gestures, and still others by a frown, by movements of the eyes, by laughing, by yawning, by clearing of the throat, or by a recollection, or by trembling. The Lanka continues, the Bodhisattva will become thoroughly conversant with the noble truth of self-realization, will become a perfect master of his own mind, will conduct himself without effort, will be like a gem reflecting a variety of colors, will be able to assume the body of transformation, will be able to enter into the subtle minds of all beings, and because of his firm belief in the truth of mind only, will, by gradually ascending the stages, become established in Buddhahood. For me, this thought of self-realization in the Lanka is identical with the teaching of Chan, seeing into one's own nature and attaining Buddhahood. The above lines in the Lanka also highlights the enlightenment or self-realization must issue from one's own inner mind or consciousness, and that Buddhahood cannot be attained by scriptural teaching or by another person's help. Before we go into words or no words any further, let's take a look at a big picture for a moment. Since we are unable to answer some of the significance of origins, history, and culture in the Mahayana Sutras, perhaps all we can say about their creation has the nature of conjecture, and its influence can hardly be understated. Here are a few brief examples of possible stepping stones through history from the Lanka to the present. Kanchi Sosan, Taiso Eka's disciple and Bodhidharma's great disciple, is said to have composed The Heart That Trusts to the Eternal. Reverend Master Mann gave a stellar retreat in June on this poem, which comes highly recommended, and if you haven't heard the talks yet, they can be found on our website. All I can add is that the Lanka illumines what is engraved upon the heart. Kanchi Sosan preached widely on the essentials of teaching following a set sequence. After talking on the text, the ultimate way is not hard, simply reject picking and choosing. He would expound on the power of words fail to describe it, for it is not of past, future, or present. Truly, there is no inside or outside, and there is no in-between. What is there to choose? What to reject? You cannot grab hold of it or discard it. Once you are beyond hatred and desire, it is crystal clear and unmistakable. Nothing is lacking at any time, nor is there anything in excess. Nevertheless, look and probe deeply into yourself until you find the ungraspable place which is beyond imagining or description. Never deny the law of karma or be a veritable log or stone. Strike space hard and make it reverberate. It's obvious to me that Kanchi Sosan had been influenced by the Lanka. If we leap to the 12th century during Great Master Dogen's lifetime and look at one of my favorites on the spiritual discourse of the mountains and waters, we clearly see that Great Master Dogen influenced the development of Zen. This chapter of the Shobogenzo highlights, among other core practices, the interconnectedness between mountains and wise individuals who seek enlightenment. Within them, the very act of loving these mountains fosters a deep connection and understanding of the way. Great Master Dogen was a creative and original thinker. As far as I can tell, he does not mention the Lankavatara Sutra directly, like he does with the Lotus Sutra. And it seems to me he points us straight on directly into what is not about clinging to intelligent understanding or mere doctrine, but rather a profound realization of the mind's true nature. We'll come back to this in the days ahead. One more step brings us to Reverend Master Jiyu. Let us take a glance, a slice, or maybe just a little sliver of our own miraculous history and culture at Shasta Abbey, where there are monks still alive who were ordained by Reverend Master Jiyu and are precious living sutras from which we can learn. Our ancestral line has two branches. Two of Reverend Master Jiyu's three direct ancestors were Chinese. Reverend Sek Kim Sing had smuggled Reverend Sek Xian To, who was a precept master, out of China, so he could give Reverend Master Jiyu the Bodhisattva precepts. Remember, this is the time of the Communist Revolution and the beginning of Mao Zedong's Red Guard and the Cultural Revolution, which destroyed many Chinese temples in the 1960s. Reverend Sek Xian To never returned to China. Monks were able to leave China, had a much better life than those who stayed. And Reverend Sek Kim Sing, in his wisdom, managed to smuggle out 10 or so monks. Guishan is the temple where both Reverend Sek Kim Sing and Reverend Sek Xian To had trained in their early years. Master Wu Liao's stature as a meditation master is extraordinary. It would seem he studied under Peng Cheng, who was also known as Hakyu Zhou. Apparently, he practiced Pure Land during the day, reciting Namo Amu Tofu, and he dug the foundations for Guishan, and practiced Chan meditation at night. Master Wu Liao was a great Chan master, the founder of Guishan. He died in the 9th century, and it is reputed that because of the strength of his meditation, his body, which was in a meditation posture, did not disintegrate. It was lacquered in gold leaf, and this meat body was preserved at Guishan up until the Cultural Revolution, sometime in the 1960s, when it was destroyed by the Red Guard. A statue in our founder shrine is a copy of Master Wu Liao's meat body and was brought to Shasta Abbey in the early 2000s. Where you're not able to go into the founder's shrine, which is behind the main altar, you may go to the entrance and pay your respects. Master Wu Liao is in the northwest corner. He's mistakenly radiant. I mention these stepping stones to add clarity, to encourage us to put flexibility into what we might think we know. What really matters is the precious teachings of how to live our life in peace and harmony. The Lanka does not suggest the physical world does not exist, rather emphasizes our understanding of it, which shapes our mind. It's like watching a movie. The screen is real, the images projected onto it are created by the projector. D.T. Suzuki, translator of the Lankavatara, put it this way: the reason why Bodhidharma handed the sutra to Weiko as containing the essence of Zen Buddhism must be sought in this, that the constant refrain of the Lanka is that all importance of the inner perception or self-realization. Indeed, this is the constant refrain of the sutra, but it isn't just about Zen. It is firmly rooted in Yogacara Buddhism as well. It also focuses on the Bodhisattva path that still dominates Mahayana Buddhism today. From my perspective, it does all of this far beyond the normal venues of Mahayana discourse. And to top it off, the Lanka begins on a distant island, the Lanka, which in theory is the blown off top of Mount Sumeru, where the sutra opens, where the Buddha is instructing one of India's serpent kings, Sagara, in his watery kingdom. Isn't that grand? The Buddha is giving voice to the Dharma in the ocean. I find that so refreshing. So the Buddha says, on Lanka's Mount Malaya, The Tathagatas, the Arhants, the fully enlightened ones of the past have taught the self-realization of Buddha knowledge. Today, for the sake of Ravana, I too will teach this teaching. Red Pine's note says that it's not so veiled that the mountain's name is in reference to the eighth form of consciousness, Alavijnana. Anyway, the king of Yakshas, Ravana, said, the Tathagata has said that dharmas should be abandoned and non-dharmas even more. This sounds familiar, it's in the Diamond Sutra. What do you mean when you say we should abandon these two kinds of dharma? The Buddha said, Lord of Lanka, fire is seen as something uniform, but when it destroys such things as buildings or trees, its flames are distinguished depending on the shape and size of the material that burns. Why don't you see that dharmas and non-dharmas are distinguished the same way? Just as a fire is seen as a singular continuity or as a diversity of flames. Thus, Lord of Lanka, the different characteristics of dharmas and non-dharmas are the result of projections. Any distinction is arbitrary. Non-dharmas turn out to have the same characteristics as dharmas, and dharmas are thus no more real than non-dharmas. Ravina keeps asking about this through the beginning of the sutra, and I think the issue there is attachment. So I find this very refreshing, not knowing what Bodhidharma was up to, if he even existed, and there's lots of things we could say about that, but we won't. But I just find it refreshing that what I'm trying to say today, that we just don't know with certainty what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and does it matter? I don't think so. Buddhism is a breath of fresh air when we are able to get ourselves out of the way. Thank you. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha.